You're listening to Maneuvering Mondays, a podcast about transforming work culture. In this first part of the episode, we follow the fictional story of Marie, who's an HR manager in the edtech company Zebra Apps, as she maneuvers the challenges of transforming their work culture.
Marie was pouring herself a cup of coffee in the kitchenette on the engineering floor. She was about to go into the conference room, which was still plastered in brown paper from her conversation with Jenni. She had briefed Tom, Lily and Joe about her conversation with Jenni. They were all in disbelief that Jenni had actually listened. "Hey Marie," Willie said as he entered the kitchenette. "Hey Willie," Marie said. "What's going on in the conference room?" he asked, pointing towards the glass wall plastered with brown paper. "We are discussing how the current quality issues with ASLO may be rooted in how we are organised and how we fund the development of ASLO," Marie said. Willie nodded. "You know, when we talk about funding, we should also remember to fund the hardware in the data centre when we make changes to ASLO," he said. Marie raised her eyebrows. "How do you mean?" Marie asked. "Have a seat," Willie said, and gestured towards the bare table in the kitchenette. Marie sat down with her coffee cup. "Whatever we build with software actually runs on our hardware," he said, pointing in the direction of the data centre. "Lately, ASLO has been occupying more and more physical space and requiring more power to run," he said. "What does that mean?" Marie asked. "It means that we keep adding computing power and storage to the data centre," he said. "And because of the war and the aftermath of the pandemic, it is very hard to get the parts needed to expand the data centre." "So what do we do?" Marie asked. "We pay more for the spare parts we can find," Willie said. "But we have also looked into buying used hardware from data centres that are being closed down." "Who would close down their data centres?" Marie asked. Willie looked at her. "The large Western companies were trying to get out of the Russian market when the war started," Willie said, "and there were spare parts to be swept up cheaply for a short period of time." Marie gasped. "Did we buy spare parts from Russia?" she asked. Willie nodded. Marie's jaw dropped. Those expenses that Jaque had found. Could Natalie actually have travelled to Russia? "Did Natalie go to Russia?" Marie asked. "I believe so," Willie said. "So did Frank and also Andrea." "Who else knows about this?" Marie asked. Willie shrugged. "I don't think anyone was particularly proud of this move," Willie said, "and it was short-lived anyway. We only managed to get one shipment before the country shut down completely." Suddenly, a thought struck Marie. "Wait, so Frank and Andrea were on the same trip to Russia?" Marie asked. "I believe so," Willie said. Marie got up to leave. "Wait, Marie," Willie said. "I am serious though. When you talk about the cost of ASLO, remember the cost of increasing the data centre every time we build new features or add new customers." Marie nodded. Marie was about to wander up to Paul to discuss what she had learnt about Frank and Andrea travelling together, but she ran into Jaque on her way up the stairs. "Marie," Jaque said, "aren't we meeting now?" Marie stopped. "Right," she said, and turned around. "We are." Jaque smirked. "What's going on?" he asked. "Natalie was in fact in Russia," she said, "with Frank and Andrea, to purchase used elements for our data centre." Jaque raised his eyebrows. "I see," he said. "We only got one batch of hardware through," she said. "So it was not to sell the company to the Russians," Jaque said. Marie thought for a minute. We don't know that for sure, do we? She said. Jaque shook his head. It was not discussed with me or Jenni, he said. You seem flustered, Marie, he said. I'm just confused, Marie said. I'm not sure what to do with this new information. Right now, nothing, Jaque said. Right now, let's go and talk to Jenni. He grabbed Marie's shoulders and led her to the meeting room. Jenni was already in the meeting room. You are late, Jenni said. But we are pretty, Jaque said. Jenni laughed. Marie walked over to her drawing of circles. There's a circle missing, Marie said. She drew one more circle before the platform and wrote data center in the middle. Every time we create new features for ASLO, we also increase our physical footprint in the data center. What am I looking at? Jaque said. Peas? Yesterday she had me looking at an elephant, Jenni said. You HR creatives, Jaque said. At least there is no glitter glue, Jenni said. Are you serious? Marie said. We are messing with you, Jaque said. Well, stop, Marie said. So serious, Jaque said, and winked at Marie. Marie rolled her eyes. You are looking at how engineering is organised and funded, Jenni said. I see, Jaque said. And we have identified why we have failing quality, Marie said. Jenni walked up to the wall. You see, Jenni said, currently we only fund the delivery of ASLO to the new customer, but we keep developing the platform to their needs long after it has been sold to them. And we need to fund the adjustments needed to the entire platform as we make these changes. And also the increases in the data center as we add new features, Marie said. Jaque laughed. So that is why we are bleeding money, Jaque said, because we only charge for 1/3 of the work we actually deliver. Marie nodded. That's why we need you, Jenni said, to create a better way to charge for our products so we can fund all the steps in our development. Why do we have a data center? Jaque asked. Jenni raised her eyebrows. I'm not kidding, Jaque said. If it is 1/3 of our costs, we do not currently fund it. We have a hard time finding parts we need for it. What if we sell off the parts we have? And migrate to a cloud? Jenni said quietly. We could make a profit on that in the short term, Jaque continued, helping Zebra survive here and now as we rework our cost structure. Jaque walked over to the brown paper. He drew a line around the delivery team and the platform. We can go from being pea-shaped to being peanut-shaped, he said. Fit to feed an elephant, Jenni said. Marie smiled. You want to close the data center? Willie almost shouted. Jenni, Jaque and Marie had invited the teams working on ASLO to join them individually in the conference room with all the brown paper. Each team had a 30-minute slot where Jenni, Jaque and Marie explained their findings and the idea to become peanut-shaped. On the wall opposite from the circles that have now become a peanut was a wall clad in brown paper to capture the feedback of the engineering teams. It was now right before lunchtime, and the feedback wall was plastered with post-its from the delivery teams. Jenni, Jaque and Marie had planned to collect feedback to ensure the idea was worth pursuing before presenting it to the rest of the management team. Marie, Willie said, I was asking for more funding, not to be erased from the face of the earth. Marie's face turned red. Willie, Jenni started. No, Willie shouted. I've given my very best to this company, and now you want to close what I had worked so hard to put in place? It's not about closing the data center, Marie said, and no one is deciding whether to close it or not. We want your feedback on what would happen if we were to close it. Willie looked firmly into Marie's eyes. Richard would never have stood for this, he said. You know, Shane said, We could migrate to one of the larger cloud providers within 6 months. Willie looked at Shane. We would not be able to realise the sales price of our infrastructure before everything was migrated, Shane continued, so the potential gains would only be realised after the new year. Willie walked up to Shane and looked him straight in the eyes. Willie, we're the only company that keeps our own infrastructure, Shane said. It is more cost-effective to use a third-party provider. No third-party provider can deliver the same quality of hosting as we can internally, Willie said. Marie said. Willie looked at her. What? He asked. What if we were to provide hosting services to other companies? Marie asked. If we are so good at it. Willie pointed at Marie. She gets it, he said. But are we a hosting company? Jenni asked. Or are we an elephant? Elephant or not, Jaque said. It's worth investigating. Either migrating away from the data centre or providing hosting services to others if we do keep it. It would add on to the costs, Shane said. We would be competing with large facilities that are more efficient than we are. We can be efficient, Willie said, if we have the right hardware. Marie added a post-it to the wall, writing, "Provide hosting services to other companies" on it. Jenni, Jaque and Marie sat together during lunch. If it takes 6 months to migrate, Jaque said, it may not be worth it. Hosting for other companies will mean we need to expand the data centre, Jenni said. In the short term, it will be a cost increase. Plus, we would need to add new kinds of teams, Marie said, to service our hosting customers. Marie poked at her lasagna. At least the delivery teams acknowledge the need to differentiate between platform teams and delivery teams, Jenni said. Marie chuckled. What? Marie asked. They are the ones who brought this to our attention in the first place, Marie said. It is more about us acknowledging that we have a hollow platform team structure. Jenni looked away. Look, Marie said, I'm not blaming you. I'm just pointing out that the teams usually know what is wrong long before management does. Lily was about to sit down next to Marie, but Jenni met her gaze. Lily opened her mouth, said nothing, and turned around. What is that about? Marie asked. Jenni scoffed. Cats fighting, Jaque said. Jenni rolled her eyes. Is that what it is? Marie asked. She is gunning for my job, Jenni said. Lily? Marie asked. Makes sense, Jaque said. She's a better developer than you are and is more well-liked. Jenni looked at him. Jaque, Marie said. Tell me I'm wrong, Jenni, Jaque said. Jenni picked up her tray and left. Dear God, Marie said. Am I wrong? Jaque asked. I don't think that Lily wants Jenni's job, Marie said. I don't think so either, Jaque said. But Lily is competent, well-liked, and has a cool head. It makes sense that Jenni would feel threatened by someone like that. But it's great to have a competent member on your team, Marie said. Jaque looked at her and smiled. You're telling me that you do not feel threatened by Eric? He said. Marie blushed. What do you mean? She asked. Not a single little piece of you is worried that your competent team member is gunning for your job, Jaque said, and put an elbow in Marie's side. Marie looked at him. I am worried, she said, but I choose not to be. Jaque put his hand on Marie's shoulder. He is a good man, he said. He would not do anything to steal your thunder. Marie took a deep breath. Jaque put his arm down. I think we should talk to Richard about the peanut, he said. Why? Marie asked. The data centre was his vision, he said. He might have an opinion about what should happen to it. He does not work here anymore, Marie said. Perhaps he should, Jaque said. After lunch, Marie, Jaque and Jenni were meeting with more delivery teams. Jenni was very quiet. Separating the teams into feature teams and delivery teams is not going to fix it, Drew said. Why not? Marie asked. Because it is about understanding the dependencies between the specific client requests and the features they tie into, Tom said. You just need competent people that understand both, Ibrahim said. If we could clone you, we would, Jason said. You wish, Ibrahim said. But since we can't clone Ibrahim, Marie said, how could we create coherence between the specific client configuration and the platform itself? Ibrahim grabbed a marker and went to the brown paper with all the circles on it. You see these teams here, he said, pointing at the delivery teams. They don't just create new features. They create versions of those features before they are even integrated back into the platform. He drew an arrow back to a feature circle, then another one next to it, then another one. So when another team creates a similar feature, he drew an arrow from a different delivery circle back to the same feature circle. There is not just one conflict to resolve, but several, on already live applications being used by clients. That is why our hosting is exploding in size, Tom said. We are running duplicative processes. Marie looked over at Jenni. How do we adjudicate these changes? Jenni asked. We would talk and fight about these things during our daily stand-ups, Ibrahim said. But someone thought they were not a productive use of our time. He looked at Jenni's face. She looked away. How many of these duplicative lines do we have? Jaque asked. Ibrahim looked at the board. We have many per customer, Jason said. It's gotten worse in the months I've been gone. It's gotten unmanageable since Anne left, Ibrahim said. That is what she was doing in all of those meetings, Jenni said, streamlining the lines. Jenni sighed. She got up and left the room, closing the door behind her. Marie looked over at Jaque. Ibra, Jaque said, can this be fixed? Ibrahim shook his head. I think we need to rebuild, he said. Jaque looked over at Jason. I think we could still try to untangle these changes, Jason said. But we would need to change how we operate. We need to kill off the delivery teams and focus on getting the platform into better shape. All the technical debt is going to kill us, said Tom. I don't think we need to move all the delivery people into feature teams, Drew said. We could have a customer-facing team, but they should not be allowed to change anything in the actual platform. Any changes would need to be coordinated and discussed with the team responsible for the feature. That will give a worse customer experience, Jaque said. But a more stable platform, Jason said. I'm not sure changing the team structure is going to help, Tom said. As I mentioned before, when the delivery and platform work well in unison, it's usually because the people manage to communicate well together. Moving people around into a new structure is not going to help. It's about our culture, Marie said. Yes, Tom said, exactly. And about not suppressing when people actually take responsibility, Jason said. Jaque and Marie were left alone in the conference room after the last team of engineers had left. What do you think? Marie asked. Where did Jenni go? Jaque asked. Marie shrugged. They both sat on the conference table looking at the post-its capturing feedback from the teams. This does give a good overview, Jaque said. Marie looked at him. My eyes are running all over the place on this, she said. Jaque walked up to the board. Look, he said, these notes here They were all about the data centre and how we either need to invest more in it or get rid of it. He moved post-its around so there was a clear cluster around the data centre. These here, he said, are about our pricing structure. We charge too little for our product, and we do not explain the value add that our customers currently get beyond the initial process. These here, he said, are about our pricing structure. We charge too little for our product, and we do not explain the value add that our customers currently get beyond the initial purchase. And these here, he said, pointing to the remainder, are all about how to organise our teams. Marie chuckled. What's your summary on those? Marie asked. That what we are doing right now is definitely not working, he said. Marie laughed. I agree, she said. And also that maybe it is not a structural problem, but more a problem about people not communicating sufficiently with each other. I will write up the business cases for the price restructuring and look further into the data centre, Jaque said. The organisation of the teams I'll leave in your capable hands. You're taking all the easy stuff, Marie said. Jaque winked. I know, he said. Marie found Jenni at the bottom of the stairwell. She was sitting on the bottom stair. Hey, Marie said. Hey, Jenni said, looked up, and then looked straight ahead again. Marie sat down next to her. Why did you leave? Marie asked. Jenni did not move. Marie sat in silence. I think I liked it better when it was a mess down here, Jenni said. Marie chuckled. It had its charm, Marie said, and I think Joe misses it as a treasure hunting ground. When everything's out in the open, Jenni said, it is very hard not to see things clearly. What kind of things are you talking about? Marie asked. Jenni looked at her. I untangled ASLO. Whatever threads were holding them together, I removed them, Jenni said. To be fair, Marie said, perhaps being held together by threads was not a great starting point in the first place. Jenni smiled faintly. I focused on efficiency, Jenni said, and what was needed was a focus on resolving the quality, and not just how fast we get to poor quality. It was not just you, Marie said. You were put under a lot of pressure by Natalie. Jenni nodded. But I should have protected my teams from that pressure, not passed it on, Jenni said. Marie nodded. And I don't know how to restructure the team so that it makes more sense, Jenni said. Marie smiled. I don't think there is a right answer to that, Marie said. I think we need to focus on giving people a sense of responsibility so that they can find the right way to organise for us. You mean start with the culture, Jenni said. Marie smiled. Yes, she said. Marie was nervous. She felt like she was doing something wrong. Maybe she was, but she felt like there was no need to reinvent the wheel, if the wheel was in fact invented. Hi, Marie, Anne said. Marie got up to give Anne a hug. Oh, we're hugging now, Anne said, and patted Marie on the back from an arm's length. Marie pointed at the teapot and the cinnamon buns already served at their usual table at the coffee shop. We are going to need more of these, Anne said. Who else is coming? Marie asked. I've invited the whole gang, Anne said. Marie could feel her cheeks warm up. Why would Anne invite more people when it was hard enough to have to speak with her? Hello, Jaque said, and sat down. You just follow me wherever I go, Marie said. I won't eat your bun this time, Jaque said. Anne gave me a stern talking to last time. Marie looked over at Anne. You were being disrespectful, Anne said with a motionless face. I was being playful, Jaque said. Thin line, Jaque, Anne said. And Marie did not like that. Marie was surprised, both that Anne had actually spotted it and that she came to her defence. I'll order more buns, Jaque said, and respect Marie's boundaries. He winked at Marie and went to the counter. You can tell him how you feel, Anne said. He comes off rude, but he's actually a good person. Marie said. Hey, Jason said and sat down. Jason, Marie said and put her hand on his shoulder. May I join you? A deep male voice said from behind Marie. Marie turned around to find both Richard and Simon there. I brought a friend, Richard said. Simon gave Marie a hug. I hear you're killing off the data centre, Simon said. Only my life's work there. News travels fast, Marie said, looking at Richard. I hope this does not ruin our chances of actually being acquired. This is kept strictly between friends, Richard said. Jaque arrived at the table with a stack of cinnamon buns and a heap full of juices in different colours. Richard, he said, attempting to shake his hand while holding all his orders. Let me help you with some of those, Richard said, and took the plate of cinnamon buns. I just wanted to speak with Anne about how she had envisioned the ASLO teams could be organised, Marie said. I don't know what everyone else has in mind. It's all part of the system, Anne said. The engineering teams, the pricing structure, the data centre. And the time is running out, Jaque said. Seriously, we need to find a way to keep ASLO alive and our people employed beyond Christmas. The we here, is this group in your mind, Jaque? Marie asked. It sure is not my leadership team at Zebra, Jaque said. Doesn't that seem wrong to you? Marie said. Marie, you may be able to inspire change in our engineering teams, Jaque said, and I'm impressed by how far you have come with Jenni. She's had a total change of heart. But I don't think you stand a chance with Natalie. Marie looked at Jaque, and then she looked at Richard. I may not be able to do much, she said, but I just might know a person who can. Richard met her gaze. I might have been able to, before, Richard said, but I don't think that I command her trust anymore. Richard, Jaque said, why did you insist on having an in-house data centre? For me, it was a matter of taking responsibility for all the links in the chain, Richard said, and making sure that we are good in every part of it. He looked down. I'm not sure I would have made the same decision today, though, he said. The quality of service with other cloud providers is much better now than when we had built ASLO. Maybe today we would have stored it in a third-party cloud to begin with. Simon looked at Richard. Now you tell me, Simon said. You don't even work in hardware anymore, Richard said. Only because Convotech does not have any hardware, Simon said. The question is not what is important for Richard or Simon, Anne interrupted. The question is what is the right thing to do for ASLO and Zebra. I don't think we are dependent on having our own data centre, Jason said. I will do the math on that one, Jaque said. But the initial numbers that Asia showed me are that in the first year it is a significant additional cost, but that it pays back in 3 years and has significant cost savings after that. Does that account for the revenue we could get from selling off the equipment in the data centre? Jason asked. Unfortunately it does, Jaque said, because we have not upgraded our equipment in a long time. It's not worth that much. You could create a different pricing structure for ASLO, Anne said. I had tried to pitch that to Natalie many times. Natalie always wanted the cash now, Richard said. I'd like to see your calculations on that, Anne, Jaque said. Sure, let's go over them, Anne said. Do you want to meet here tomorrow? Marie started shifting in her seat. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. This was supposed to be my afternoon with Anne, Marie said, trying to figure out how we could have structured our teams differently to not be in this architectural mess we have ourselves in. Marie looked around. Marie, Richard said, it's a mess because there are many points of failure. That's why I invited everyone, Anne said. You need to hear all the perspectives. I tried to embed a sense of responsibility in all the developers, Richard said, which is the reason why I was against getting dedicated people in the team to manage the group dynamics. That backfired now, Richard, Jason said. I did not anticipate not being at Zebra and not being in control of what kinds of metrics the teams would be measured according to, Richard said. I tried to make sure that all the teams still understood what the other teams were doing, Anne said, but it became unsustainable that I was the only person doing that. I was protecting the hardware folks over everyone else's needs, Simon said, because they were my responsibility. The whole product is your responsibility, Richard said. That is not how it feels when you are being asked to squeeze every ounce of efficiency out of your people, Simon said. Then you protect your people. We need these teams thinking and communicating again, Jaque said, or we are going to start losing customers and our end will come even earlier than we know it. You shouldn't reorganise, Anne said, but you do need to work on both the product and the delivery at once. Thanks, Anne, Marie said and rolled her eyes. You could dedicate a small team of people to work on the platform, or at least understand the amount of technical depth that we have, Anne said. And you could dedicate a small team of people who should take ownership of speaking to the other teams and figuring out what is going on. I could be one of those people, Jason said. Marie smiled at him. And you need to keep telling them that the whole product is their responsibility, Richard said, looking at Simon. Happy now? Anne asked. Grudgingly happy, Marie said. Jenni had agreed to dedicate one team to investigate the amount of technical depth and to appoint strings to hold the delivery teams together. Marie and Natalie had used Marie's whiteboard with string, showing what the people in the different teams do, to appoint the few that would have the added responsibility of making sure they understood what everyone else was up to. Marie was walking down the hallway in the engineering department when she met Ibrahim wheeling a whiteboard. Hey Ibrahim, Marie said. Where are you going with that? I'm revolting, Marie, Ibrahim said, and putting this in my office. Why is that a revolt? Marie asked. Because I will stop maintaining the Jira board for my delivery team, he said, smiling ear to ear. Good for you, Marie said. She was about to walk on when she stopped. Won't that make it harder for the other teams to know what you're up to? She asked. The other teams will need to walk their asses into my actual office to look at my board, Ibrahim said, so they can ask questions and understand the context for what we are doing and why. Who is your string? Marie asked. Technically, we are all strings, Marie, Ibrahim said, but Drew will be the one with the formal responsibility for snooping on the other teams. You're right, Marie said. Ideally, everyone would be strings. Hey, Ibrahim said. Getting Jenni to let go of some of her madness is pretty impressive. Marie smiled. We'll take it from here, Ibrahim said, and wheeled on. Marie felt her stomach turn. What did he mean by that? And who were the we in this scenario? Marie was having lunch with Eric and Sheila when Natalie sat down next to Marie. "They've stopped reporting on their quality numbers," Natalie said as she was biting into a whole sausage. "Who did?" Marie asked. "A couple of the engineering teams," Natalie said, taking a big bite of her bread. "Your HR magic is impacting my numbers, Marie," Natalie said. "But is the quality actually improving?" Marie asked. Natalie turned her full body towards Marie. "I don't know now," Natalie said. Marie thought about Ibrahim's whiteboard. There is no getting numbers from that into Natalie's spreadsheet. "And you know the worst thing?" Natalie continued. Marie shook her head. "Jenni is starting to sound just like Anne," Natalie said. Marie smiled. Natalie gulped down the rest of her meal and left without a word. "Stirring the humours in engineering, Marie?" Eric asked. "I might have a bit less power than you might have attributed to me," Marie said. "You'll get this right in the end," Sheila said. "You always do." "I hope so," Marie said. She looked down at her plate. When she looked up, she saw Willie walking past her. He caught her gaze and deliberately looked away. "I really hope so," Marie said, "before it is too late."
You're listening to Maneuvering Mondays, a podcast about transforming work culture. Tune in when we invite guests to comment on this part of Marie's journey. What are your thoughts on Marie's situation? Have you had a similar experience? And what would you have done? Join the conversation on our LinkedIn page and let's maneuver Mondays together.